For some cops, it starts like a normal night duty: quiet streets, routine patrols, and the low crackle of a radio. But in an instant, the ordinary can spiral into the unimaginable, like a routine patrol interrupted by blood-curdling screams echoing from nowhere, or a sudden encounter with a creature no one can explain.
There's like an 8-foot person beside it, and another one's inside, and it has big eyes and looking at us, and it's still there.
Some of these encounters left the strongest of cops running for their lives. Others left questions that couldn't be answered. Join us on this special episode as we explore 20 moments after cops witnessed paranormal activity. Our journey begins with a creature caught on camera that seems to defy every law of nature. Imagine this: a peaceful midnight suddenly interrupted by a dreadful howl. That's exactly what happened to a family in suburban Detroit, forcing them to make that dreaded 911 call. The dispatcher's voice crackled with uncertainty as he logged the unusual complaint of strange noises coming from their property. Three brave officers responded to the call, their standard-issue flashlights and pistols providing little comfort against the unknown. The family huddled inside their home and pointed trembling fingers toward their backyard. The officers exchanged knowing glances, their training hardly preparing them for what awaited in the darkness. The beam of their flashlights cut through the night air as they cautiously approached the source of the disturbance. The grass crunched beneath their boots, each step heightening the tension. The night seemed to hold its breath, waiting. A bone-chilling howl pierced the silence, a sound that defied description. It wasn't a dog's bark or any known animal's cry. It was something different, something that made these hardened officers forget their training, weapons, and pride. In a scene straight out of a horror movie, these three armed police officers, trained to face dangerous criminals and life-threatening situations, turned tail and ran. Their hasty retreat left behind unanswered questions. What created that blood-curdling sound? What did they see in those fleeting moments before fear took over? If you thought the eerie howl was chilling, wait until you hear about an officer's unsettling conversation with someone who shouldn't exist. Alone in an abandoned school, Officer James had a conversation that he'll never forget. Neither will you. The security footage tells a tale that sends shivers down the spine of anyone who watches it. Officer James Miller's body camera captured him walking down the lit hallway, his flashlight beam cutting through the darkness. The static-filled conversation with dispatch crackled through his walkie-talkie as he performed his standard sweep of the premises. "All clear on the second floor," he reported, his voice echoing off the vacant lockers. Then something extraordinary happened. The footage shows Miller stopping abruptly, turning to his left, and engaging in what appears to be a friendly conversation with thin air. The response from dispatch froze time itself as she asked Officer James who he was talking with.
Dispatch to 329?
329, go ahead.
Yes, sir. Who are you talking to?
As the officers methodically swept through the building's corridors and classrooms, their body cameras captured something that defies logical explanation. In the dim light of an empty classroom, a wooden chair, completely untouched by human hands, suddenly dragged itself backward across the floor. The eerie movement wasn't subtle or gradual. The chair jerked backward with deliberate force, scraping against the floor tiles as if yanked by an invisible entity. The security officers, hardened by years of night patrols and false alarms, found themselves face to face with something their training hadn't prepared them for. Their body camera footage shows the exact moment reality shifted. 1 second they're conducting a standard sweep, the next, pure chaos erupts. The officers' flashlight beams dance wildly across the walls as they scramble to process what they've witnessed. Without hesitation, these trained professionals abandon their posts. their rapid footsteps echoing through the empty hallways as they fled the scene. The incident report filed that night remains one of the most peculiar in the precinct's history. Despite multiple investigations, no rational explanation has emerged for the chair's autonomous movement. The school's security system showed no signs of tampering, and the building's structure revealed no abnormalities that could cause such movement. As investigators grappled with the chair's unexplained movement, a cry like no other brought chaos to another Buenos Aires patrol. The dimly lit streets of La Matanza, Buenos Aires, became the stage for one of Argentina's most chilling police encounters. On a routine patrol near the intersection of La Matanza and Carlos Casares, Officer Martinez's night shift transformed into a blood-curdling experience that would haunt him forever. The officer's body camera captured the haunting audio, a spine-tingling scream that pierced through the midnight silence. The cry wasn't your typical distress call. It possessed an unnatural quality that defied human vocal capabilities. The sound echoed through the empty streets, bouncing off building walls and creating an eerie symphony of despair. It started as a faint whimper, Martinez recalled in his report, then escalated into something I've never heard before, not in my 15 years of service. The audio analysis revealed multiple layers of voices intertwined within the cry, ranging from deep, guttural sounds to high-pitched wails. What made the incident particularly unsettling was the complete absence of any visible source. Despite thorough searches of the area, no human or animal could be linked to these bone-chilling screams. Martinez, a decorated officer known for his unwavering courage, shocked his superiors by requesting an immediate transfer from the area. His exact words were, "I'd rather face armed criminals than patrol that street again." From haunting sounds to terrifying sights, the next encounter takes us to Phoenix, where an alien presence leaves a family paralyzed with fear. The night sky above Phoenix, Arizona, erupted into chaos when a family's frantic 911 call pierced through the emergency dispatch center. Their voices trembled with a mix of fear and disbelief as they described a mystical encounter unfolding in their backyard. "It came down in a bright flash, like nothing we've ever seen," the caller whispered, his voice cracking. "This thing, it's massive, at least 8 feet tall. Those eyes, they're huge, black, and they're staring right at us through our kitchen window."
Leave her alone.
It's almost midnight on May 1st when a Las Vegas Metro police officer's body cam catches this.
The responding officers arrived within minutes, their body cameras capturing an unusual sequence of pulsating lights dancing across the dark sky. The footage shows officers Martinez and Thompson cautiously approaching the property's backyard, their flashlights cutting through the darkness.
Police walk into the backyard to investigate, but Metro blacked out that.
What happened next remains a subject of intense speculation. The body cam footage abruptly cuts to black, labeled with a private property, restricted disclaimer.
If those 9-foot beings come back, don't call us, all right? Deal with it yourself. I ain't dealing with that.
The truly bizarre part, the officers' subsequent behavior defied standard protocol. Rather than filing a detailed report or launching an investigation, they hurriedly left the scene. Their parting words to the family sent chills down spines. "Don't call us if it comes back. You're on your own with this one." Days later, grainy security camera footage emerged from a neighboring property. The images showed a towering silhouette, its proportions matching no known terrestrial creature. The figure moved with an unnatural fluidity, leaving strange geometric patterns burned into the grass where it stood. While the Arizona encounter raised questions about extraterrestrial visitors, the next case asks a terrifying question. Can ghosts fire guns? What happens when gunshots ring out in an empty room? This suburban home became ground zero for a terrifying phantom attack. A quiet suburban neighborhood was suddenly filled with the frantic calls of a terrified homeowner. She was on the line with 911, her voice shaking as she reported strange noises coming from one of her rooms, sounds that made no sense.
Moose?
Two experienced police officers arrived at the scene, their flashlights cutting through the darkness. The homeowner, clearly shaken, pointed towards the room where the noises were coming from. She wouldn't go near it, her hands shaking as she gestured from a safe distance. The officers moved in carefully, their weapons drawn, but they weren't prepared for what happened next. Just as they reached the doorway, they heard pop, 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 gunshots ringing out from inside the room. It was a sound they knew all too well, sharp and clear in the stillness of night. But here's the twist. When they looked inside, there was nothing there. No shooter, no weapon, no bullet holes, no spent shells on the floor. Just an empty room filled with an unexplainable presence that made itself known through ghostly gunfire. The officers' body cameras recorded their frantic retreat as they fled the scene. Their professional demeanor shattered as they stumbled backward, urgently calling for backup. These weren't inexperienced cops scared by shadows. These were seasoned veterans brought to fear by something they couldn't understand. As the ghostly gunfire left seasoned officers shaken, another eerie encounter revealed that even ghosts might have a fitness routine. Picture this. You're a police officer in India, responding to what seems like a routine call at a local gym. But what awaits you defies every logical explanation in your training manual. The scene unfolds at a quiet gym where a peculiar phenomenon has caught everyone's attention. A twin-seated dip machine, designed for two people to exercise simultaneously, moves with precise rhythmic motions. Completely empty, the weight stacks rise and fall in perfect synchronization, as if invisible athletes are performing their workout routine. The bewildered officers, their hands trembling slightly, pull out their phones to document this inexplicable sight. The machines continue their eerie dance, lifting substantial weights with mechanical precision. Each repetition matches the tempo of a standard workout, creating an unsettling display of supernatural strength. Some skeptics suggest wind interference, but the physics doesn't add up. These machines require significant force to operate. We're talking about weight stacks that would challenge even seasoned gym-goers. Wind simply couldn't generate enough power to move these mechanisms, let alone maintain such consistent, controlled movements. A local gym regular later revealed something intriguing. That particular station was the favorite spot of a dedicated bodybuilder who passed away recently. He'd spend hours there, perfecting his form on those very machines. Perhaps some habits truly do transcend the mortal realm. A ghostly depiction of the saying, "No pain, no gain," even in the afterlife. As invisible athletes flexed their supernatural strength, another bizarre case unfolded, this time involving an unexplainable disappearance. What if the person you were speaking to vanished in the blink of an eye, leaving behind no sign of escape? Officer Maria Rodriguez found herself face to face with what seemed like an ordinary speeding violation, but the events that unfolded would haunt her for years to come. Sarah Thompson, driving a silver Honda Civic, had been clocked at 15 miles per hour over the speed limit. The interaction started normally. Officer Rodriguez approached the vehicle and requested the license and registration, and Sarah complied without hesitation. The officer noted Sarah's calm demeanor, her polite responses, and the way she fumbled slightly while retrieving her license from her wallet. What happened next defied all logical explanation. As Officer Rodriguez stepped back to her patrol car to run the standard checks, she glanced down at the license for mere seconds. When she looked up to ask Sarah a follow-up question, the driver's seat sat empty. The engine still hummed softly, the seatbelt lay undisturbed across the vacant seat, and Sarah's purse remained on the passenger side. The dashcam footage revealed no movement, no door opening, no person exiting the vehicle. Sarah Thompson had simply vanished into thin air. Officer Rodriguez's body cam captured her startled cry of "Sarah," echoing through the empty street. Multiple searches of the area yielded nothing. The license in Officer Rodriguez's hand provided the only proof that Sarah Thompson had ever existed. Just when you think nothing could top Sarah's vanishing act, an office building becomes the stage for invisible chaos. A chilling incident happened during a seemingly normal night shift at a local office building, leaving an experienced security guard questioning everything he thought he knew about reality. Through the cold glow of multiple CCTV monitors, he witnessed a series of unexplained events that would make even the most hardened skeptic's blood run cold. The security footage captured doors violently slamming shut without any visible human intervention. In the eerie silence of the empty building, file cabinet drawers began sliding open as if pulled by invisible hands. Books launched themselves from shelves, scattering across the floor in chaotic patterns that defied natural physics. But the most unsettling sight was yet to come. A dark, humanoid shadow appeared in the footage, lurking in the corners and moving with an unnatural fluidity. This wasn't a trick of light or a technical glitch. The shadow possessed a distinct form and seemed to observe the chaos it created with calculated interest. The guard, frozen in his chair, could only watch as this supernatural performance played out across his screens. His years of experience dealing with intruders and troublemakers hadn't prepared him for this manifestation of the unexplainable. The events were captured across multiple camera angles, ruling out any possibility of isolated camera malfunctions or simple tricks of light. Just as the unexplained shadows faded from view, a school bus driver faced a nightmare no one could have predicted. On what seemed like an ordinary afternoon, a school bus driver's usual route took a terrifying turn. The driver, clearly shaken and pale, stopped a passing police patrol car with trembling hands. "They're gone. All of them. Just vanished," he stammered, his voice cracking with disbelief. The driver recounted how the usual noise of children talking and laughing filled his bus moments before. During a quick look in his rearview mirror, silence fell. When he turned to check on his young passengers, he found nothing but empty seats. The body camera footage of the responding officer captured the haunting scene inside the bus. Backpacks were scattered across seats, some still open with homework assignments peeking out. Half-eaten snacks and water bottles rested on seats as if their owners had simply disappeared mid-bite. The officer's body cam moved across the vehicle, showing no signs of anyone entering or leaving. The doors were securely locked from the inside. "Hello? Is anyone here?" The officer's calls echoed through the empty bus, met only by an unsettling silence. The temperature inside the bus dropped significantly, causing the officer's breath to fog in the air. As officers searched for answers to the missing children, another haunting phenomenon emerged right under their noses. The West Midlands Police Station is a place where the ordinary and the supernatural meet. What began as a routine night shift turned into a terrifying experience that made even the most experienced officers question their belief in logic. Imagine this. It's a calm night at the station, with only the soft buzzing of fluorescent lights and occasional radio conversations breaking the silence. Suddenly, a strange tap resonates through the corridors. The sound is coming from the shower room, a place that should be vacant at this time. The tapping became more pronounced, more urgent. 3 officers exchanged anxious looks, each silently wishing someone else would step up to check it out. Officer Charles Thompson, who has been on the force for 15 years, decided to take action. His partners observed as he walked towards the shower room. What Thompson found was beyond comprehension. A metal coat hanger hit the wall with an accuracy that seemed impossible, creating a steady beat that no natural explanation could provide. The windows were securely closed, and there were no air vents in sight. Thompson's body camera recorded the bizarre event. The hanger's movement remained constant, defying all laws of physics. His fellow officers, peering from the doorway, saw something unbelievable. The hanger quickened its pace without any apparent reason. Within minutes, everyone evacuated the station. These trained experts, who often confront perilous situations, were now backing away from an ordinary coat hanger that had chosen to put on its ghostly performance. From West Midlands to Colombia, the paranormal proved it knows no borders. What this guard experienced will shock you. The night shift at a Colombian estate took an unsettling turn when security guard Jason Anthony experienced what could only be described as a supernatural encounter. The estate's CCTV footage captured Anthony engaged in what appeared to be a lively conversation, gesturing, nodding, and responding as if speaking with someone standing right in front of him. His colleague, monitoring the security feeds, watched in confusion as Anthony continued his animated discussion with thin air. Puzzled by the scene unfolding before him, he radioed Anthony to inquire about his conversation partner. "I'm just catching up with Mr. Orlando," Anthony replied casually, referring to a well-known resident of the estate. The response sent chills down his colleague's spine. "Jason, Mr. Orlando passed away 20 days ago," he managed to say through the crackling radio. The security footage shows the exact moment Anthony processed this information, his body freezing mid-sentence, arms dropping to his sides. Without a second thought, he bolted from the scene, leaving behind whatever ethereal conversation partner he'd been entertaining. While a security guard confronted the spirit of a deceased resident, an Airbnb host was about to discover her property wasn't as empty as she thought. Imagine this. You have a vacation rental property and something feels off. That's exactly what happened to Sarah Martinez, an Airbnb owner in Sacramento, California. Her peaceful evening turned into a terrifying experience when she heard strange noises coming from her supposedly empty property. "I knew no guests were scheduled to arrive," Sarah recalled, her voice trembling. But the sounds, they were unmistakably footsteps. The responding officers, equipped with body cameras, documented what would become one of their most unsettling calls. As they entered the dimly lit property, their cameras captured a series of events that defied logical explanation. The footage shows Officers Johnson and Rodriguez climbing the stairs, their flashlights illuminating the narrow hallway. Suddenly, a door at the end of the corridor begins to move, swinging open and shut with an eerie rhythm. No draft, no wind, and no logical explanation for the movement. "We checked every room, every closet," Officer Johnson reported. "The property was completely empty, yet that door, it kept moving as if someone was playing with it." As the officers left the Airbnb with more questions than answers, another unexplained encounter was brewing in the dead of night at a department store. The graveyard shift at Miller's department store turned into a night of terror for Officer Peter Rodriguez. His routine security check transformed into an encounter that would haunt him for years to come. At 2:15 a.m., the store's eerie silence shattered when a mannequin in the women's clothing section inexplicably toppled over. Rodriguez's flashlight beam caught the fallen figure, its limbs splayed across the polished floor in an unnatural pose. The veteran cop's instincts kicked in as he approached the scene, his hand hovering near his service weapon. As Rodriguez examined the peculiar scene, a thunderous crash echoed from the housewares department, followed by the distinct sound of breaking glass. Racing toward the source, his footsteps echoing through the empty aisles, Rodriguez discovered a scene of chaos. Crystal glasses lay shattered across the floor, their fragments catching the beam of his flashlight like scattered diamonds. Display cabinets stood wide open, yet not a single living soul was present. Rodriguez radioed for backup, his voice trembling as he described the inexplicable events unfolding before him. The mannequins may have stopped moving, but for Officer Martinez, the unsettling encounters were only just starting. Night shifts at police stations can be eerily quiet, until unexplained events shatter the silence. Officer John Martinez learned this firsthand during what started as a routine evening at Precinct 13. The security footage captured that fateful night shows Martinez completing paperwork at his desk when the lights in the adjacent office suddenly flickered to life. No motion sensors, no presence detected, just empty darkness one moment and harsh fluorescent glare the next. Drawing his weapon, Martinez cautiously approached the illuminated room. The footage shows him scanning every corner, finding nothing but still air and silent shadows. As he reached for the light switch, he turned it off. Before Martinez could process what he was seeing, his office chair began sliding across the floor toward him, pushed by invisible hands. The security recording shows Martinez's face drain of color as he watches his chair move independently. In a split second, his training gave way to primal instinct, and he bolted from the building. Just instantly, the door opened and the light turned back on again. Flickering lights are child's play compared to what Officer Peterson saw in the haunted halls of St. Mary's. The sterile halls of St. Mary's Hospital held more than just patients and medical equipment. On that fateful night, Officer Robert Peterson's footsteps echoed through the dimly lit corridor during his routine midnight patrol. At precisely 1:17 a.m., the temperature dropped dramatically. Rodriguez's breath formed visible clouds in the suddenly frigid air. Through the corner of his eye, he caught a glimpse of someone dressed in what appeared to be dated patient attire, complete with a traditional cap. The figure turned, revealing not a face, but a swirling mass of shadows where features should have been. In a blink, the entity transformed into a dark mist, seeping through the walls like smoke. Rodriguez, driven by a mix of professional duty and morbid curiosity, pursued the apparition down the winding corridors. His shouts bounced off the walls, drawing confused looks from the night shift nurses. But the mysterious figure had vanished without a trace. The incident report remained officially inconclusive, but Rodriguez refused to patrol the hospital's third floor alone after dark ever again. As unsettling as the haunted halls of St. Mary's were, nothing could prepare a seasoned officer for the blood-curdling sound waiting in the streets of Buenos Aires. In the dead of night, a police officer's routine patrol through the streets of Buenos Aires turned into a bone-chilling encounter that would forever haunt his memories. The officer, patrolling near La Matanza and Carlos Casares, captured a blood-curdling experience on his body camera that left both law enforcement and paranormal investigators puzzled. The footage reveals an ordinary night transformed into a scene straight from a horror movie. A piercing scream shattered the silence, not your typical distress call or criminal activity, but something entirely different. The officer's body camera caught the sound, a high-pitched, unnatural shriek that seemed to emanate from everywhere and nowhere at once. What makes this case particularly disturbing is the officer's reaction. A seasoned veteran of the force, accustomed to handling dangerous situations, found himself rooted to the spot. The scream may have left the officer frozen in fear, but the next encounter would send another cop running for his life. The security footage from Silver Lake Mall still sends chills down the spines of anyone who watches it. Officer Robbie Martinez was conducting his routine midnight inspection when the unthinkable happened. The CCTV camera captured Martinez walking through the dimly lit corridor, his flashlight beam sweeping methodically across the shuttered storefronts. At 3:47 a.m., his body language suddenly changed. He stopped dead in his tracks, and what happened next defied explanation. Martinez turned and ran, pure terror evident in his movements. Behind him, a dark mass appeared in the camera's view, a creature unlike anything seen before. Its multiple limbs moved in an unnaturally fluid motion reminiscent of a giant spider, but with an almost human-like torso. The footage shows Martinez sprinting through the mall's corridors, the creature in relentless pursuit. His panicked voice echoed through his radio. When additional units arrived, they found Martinez locked in his patrol car, drenched in sweat, his uniform torn. The creature had vanished without a trace. The mall's other security cameras picked up no signs of entry or exit. While the mystery of Silver Lake Mall remains unsolved, a chilling body cam encounter would leave one officer wondering if humanity itself had been hijacked. A body camera footage reveals an encounter between a female police officer and an armed assailant. The video starts with routine police work on what should have been just another shift. Yet what happens next is hard to explain. The footage shows a man holding a knife, his movements unpredictable and unsettling. The female officer's voice remains calm as she gives clear instructions. Drop the weapon, step back. Her training kicks in, but something about this situation feels different. The man's behavior becomes increasingly strange. His eyes look vacant, movements stiff, almost like a puppet. Despite the officer's gun aimed at him, he moves forward with an unnatural determination. The officer backs away, keeping her professional demeanor while calling for backup. Then something truly disturbing happens. The man's speed suddenly doubles, his movements becoming jerky and unnatural. The officer's body camera captures his face, twisted into an expression no human face should make. His charge becomes increased, covering ground faster than usual, as though possessed by something. Left with no choice, the officer fires her weapon. The footage shows the man stumbling, yet his face remains frozen in that impossible expression. Other officers arriving at the scene would later say that the man's behavior was inexplicable, as if something else had been controlling his actions that night. Just when it seemed law enforcement had seen it all, chilling 911 calls from across the country began to blur the line between the natural and the supernatural. The piercing ring of 911 calls echoes through dispatch centers, but some calls leave even seasoned operators questioning reality. Police departments across the country have documented chilling incidents where distressed callers claim supernatural possession, their voices morphing between desperate pleas and deep growls. In a haunting 2019 case from Michigan, dispatchers received a call from a teenage girl speaking in what officers described as impossibly deep, masculine voices. A particularly disturbing incident in New Mexico left police baffled when they responded to a domestic disturbance call. The caller, a middle-aged woman, exhibited signs of what his family claimed was demonic possession. Body cam footage shows him speaking fluently in languages he'd never studied, displaying supernatural strength and revealing intimate details about the officers' personal lives that he couldn't possibly have known. "We're trained to handle every situation imaginable," noted the officer who responded to the New Mexico call. "But when you're face to face with something that defies logical explanation, your training goes out the window." These possession claims often leave law enforcement in a precarious position, torn between their duty to protect and serve and their confrontation with phenomena that challenge their understanding of reality. Many departments now include paranormal awareness in their training, acknowledging that not every crisis follows conventional patterns. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.